all season long, pundits and bloggers have been saying the same thing. Madrid hasn't even been that convincing this season in La Liga. Up until March, they've looked like the weaker side in half of their big games. And yet, they just keep staking points. So, what's the secret? Let's look at the most controversial moments this season. Let's start with the one everyone is screaming about, the Madrid derby. Right after the game, Real Madrid TV goes into full propaganda mode. They spent hours crying about the red card shown to Valverde, framing it as the heist of the century. But what they don't mention is the moment that could have flipped the whole script. Inside the box, Dani Carvajal literally launches himself at Marcos Llorente with a studs up challenge. Llorente later said, "It felt like a train hit me. The ref's decision? Nothing." And this isn't a one-off, it's a pattern. Take January. During the Supercopa against Barcelona, Raúl Asencio stops a Pedri counterattack by just kicking him from behind. It was a textbook red. Zero attempt to play the ball, high speed, high risk. He gets a yellow. Then the Osasuna match. This one is pure comedy. Inside the box, Mbappé steps directly onto Juan Cruz's leg. I'll say it again. Mbappé commits the foul. And guess what? Mbappé wins the penalty. This season alone, Madrid has been handed 14 penalties in 29 matches. That's the highest in the league by far. It's like Mbappé has a get-out-of-jail-free card in Spain. Remember the Alaves game last year? He went in with a high, reckless stamp on Antonio Blanco. The media called it disgusting and career-ending. The ref initially only showed a yellow. It took VAR stepping in to actually force him to show the red card. But honestly, the real punchline is the punishment they gave Mbappé for that tackle. 1 game. 1. That's not a suspension. That's just a payday off to go shopping in Paris. And if you think that's bad, look at Rüdiger. This is probably the most extreme thing I've ever seen. In the game against Getafe, the whole mess starts when Arda Güler catches Diego Rico with a challenge. Rico is down on the grass, and Rüdiger, who's standing right there, just decides to drive his knee straight into the guy's face. The footage is crystal clear. It's a forceful, brutal hit. Rico immediately grabs his face in agony. And the referee? He just waves it off. No foul. VAR doesn't even blink. It's like they were watching a different game. But what makes it even more disgusting is what Rüdiger said afterward. I didn't kill him. And then he actually added, if I had the intention, he doesn't get up off the ground. Think about that for a second. That is not how a normal person talks about challenge on a football page. Not killing someone isn't a favor, it's the bare minimum. You can't use "I could have ended his career, but I chose not to" as a defense. At that point, it's not just about one bad call anymore. It's about a team that clearly thinks they're above the law. But seriously, this has been building up for a long time. Think back to last March. Madrid just knocked Atletico out on their own turf. Instead of just celebrating with the team, Rüdiger runs past the home fans and drags his thumb across his throat, right in front of the cameras. And his excuse? He later called it a little joke. Seriously? Threatening a whole stadium is just Madrid's humor now? And even Guardiola got a taste of that humor recently, the Champions League game at the Etihad. After Madrid sent City packing, Pep went for a handshake. Rüdiger immediately turned it into a massive confrontation, until people had to jump in and pull them apart before it got physical. But here's the part that actually kills me. Rüdiger has 0 red cards in either La Liga or the Champions League over the last 2 seasons. How does that even work? Any other defender would be watching from the stands for half a year by now. Now let's move on from fouls the refs just ignore to full-on acting. Look, we all know players dive. It happens. On paper, it's supposed to be an automatic yellow card. But in reality, it's a different story. Take the Real Sociedad game. Vinícius Jr. goes down in the box, and the ref points to the spot immediately. No VAR review, no hesitation. But when you look at the replays, it's embarrassing. Vini is already mid-air before John Aramburu even gets close to him. It was so obvious that after the match, the refereeing committee actually admitted it was a massive blunder. They even ended up suspending the VAR official for just sitting there and ignoring a clear dive. But here's where it gets really shady. That exact same week in La Liga, another official got suspended for doing the total opposite. In the Girona versus Barcelona match, Claudio Civardi basically steps on Jules Koundé's ankle during the build-up to the winning goal. We're talking about an actual, clear-as-day foul that just got ignored. So, in a matter of days, you see both sides of the same broken system. For Vini, they don't stop the game to check a penalty that never should have stood. But against Barcelona, they don't stop the game to rule out a goal that never should have counted. It's like they're making the rules up as they go. If you want to see how the system actually works, look at the Rayo Vallecano game from last month. Madrid is playing like garbage. It's 1-1 and they're about to drop points. Then, out of nowhere, the fourth official holds up the board. 9 minutes of added time. 9 minutes. For what? There were no major injuries, just a few normal subs. It's that same old story. The game doesn't end until Real Madrid finds a way to win. Rayo was already down to 10 men and they finished the game with 9. Mbappé steps up in the 100th minute, scores the penalty, and they walk away with 3 points they didn't earn. Now, look at the Osasuna match just 3 weeks later. Same league, but a totally different set of rules. Early on, Ante Budimir gets taken out in the box because Thibaut Courtois clearly steps on his foot. The ref's first move? He doesn't give the penalty. He actually gives Budimir a yellow card for simulation. The irony. He called it a dive without even blinking. It took the entire Osasuna squad and the coach literally stopping the game to get VAR to even look at the screen. Only after the review did they finally admit it was a foul, cancel the yellow, and give the penalty. When it's a Madrid star, the clock keeps running and the whistles come easy. But when it's anyone else playing against them, you have to fight the ref, the VAR, and the clock just to get a fair call. If you want proof, just look at how the exact same referee handles the exact same situation depending on who's on the pitch. First case, Levante versus Barcelona. Alejandro Balde is defending. His arm is literally tucked against his ribs. Zero intention to play the ball. The referee, Hernandez, points the spot immediately. Penalty. Now, compare that to last season's Clásico. Tchouaméni is in the box, his arm is clearly extended, the ball hits it square on, and nothing. Absolute silence from the whistle. And guess who the ref was? Hernandez again. Same guy, same league, but two radically opposite decisions. And it's not just a Barca problem. They're just the ones being dominant enough this season for these calls to stand out. Teams like Sevilla, Osasuna, even Getafe are getting heat, but honestly, it's not even about the guys on the field anymore. It's about the machine behind them. Javier Tebas and Sevilla have been screaming about this for months. How Real Madrid TV is basically a harassment campaign. They drop these hit piece videos on the referees before every match, digging up old mistakes to tilt the narrative. And don't tell me it doesn't work. It's reached a point where it's actually dangerous. Just last year, we literally had a top official publicly breaking down in tears because his family was getting death threat, thanks to those Real Madrid TV reports. When a ref is scared for his family's safety, he's not judging the game anymore. He's just trying to survive the week. And that is exactly how Real Madrid keeps the pressure on.